Imagine a land of unimaginable wealth, vibrant cultures, and ancient empires. This was India in the early 18th century, a subcontinent teeming with life, ruled by the mighty Mughal emperors. But in less than a single lifetime, it would fall under the control of a foreign trading company from a small island thousands of miles away. This is the story of how India was lost, not just in a single battle, but through a generation of ambition, betrayal, and relentless corporate greed. Our story begins not with soldiers, but with merchants. The British East India Company arrived in India in the early 1600s, not as conquerors, but as humble traders. They came for spices, cotton, and silk, bowing before Mughal emperors to ask for permission to build small trading posts, called factories, along the coast. For over 100 years, they were just one of many European companies competing for a piece of India's immense riches. They were guests, and they knew their place. But as the once unshakable Mughal Empire began to fracture from within, a vacuum of power was created. Local princes and governors, known as Nawabs, started carving out their own kingdoms. In this chaos, the East India Company saw an opportunity. The company's character began to change. Led by ambitious and ruthless men like Robert Clive, it transformed from a commercial enterprise into a military power. They weren't just trading anymore. They were playing politics. They raised their own private army, composed of Indian soldiers called sepoys, trained and commanded by British officers. They started lending money to local rulers, trapping them in debt. They promised military support to one prince against another, and in return, they demanded more land, more trading rights, and more power. The company was becoming a kingmaker. The flashpoint came in Bengal, the richest province in all of India. Its young, hot-headed Nawab, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, saw the British for what they were becoming. He resented their growing military presence and their abuse of trade privileges, which were draining his treasury. In 1756, he decided to act. He marched on the company's main settlement at Calcutta and captured it. This act was meant to put the company back in its place. Instead, it lit a fuse. In response, the East India Company dispatched its best man, Robert Clive, with a formidable force. But Clive knew he couldn't win through military might alone. Siraj-ud-Dowlah's army was enormous, numbering close to 50,000 men. Clive had barely 3,000. So he turned to the most powerful weapon of all, conspiracy. He secretly contacted Mir Jafar, one of Siraj-ud-Dowlah's most powerful generals, and a man with his own ambitions to be Nawab. Clive made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Betray your master, stand aside during the battle, and the company will make you the new ruler of Bengal. A secret treaty was signed. The fate of India was sealed not on a battlefield, but in a secret tent with a promise of betrayal. On June 23, 1757, the two armies met at a mango grove called Plassey. On one side stood the massive army of the Nawab, on the other, Clive's tiny force. The battle began. But as it raged, a huge section of the Nawab's army, commanded by the traitor Mir Jafar, simply stood still. They did nothing. Seeing this, other commanders lost their nerve. The Nawab's army, confused and demoralized by the betrayal in its own ranks, fell into chaos. Siraj-ud-Dowlah fled the battlefield, but was soon captured and executed. The battle was over in a matter of hours. It wasn't a heroic victory. It was a fixed match, a transaction. With Mir Jafar installed as a puppet ruler, the floodgates opened. Robert Clive and the East India Company plundered Bengal's treasury, emptying centuries of accumulated wealth. This vast fortune, known as the Plassey plunder, was shipped back to Britain, funding the Industrial Revolution and making company officials fantastically rich overnight. They were now the real power in Bengal. They collected taxes, controlled the economy, and ran the administration. The Nawab was a mere figurehead. This was the blueprint. Over the next few decades, the company repeated this model across India. They used their immense wealth to build an even larger private army, which became the most powerful military force on the subcontinent. They perfected the art of divide and rule, pitting Indian states against each other. They would approach a kingdom like Mysore in the south, ruled by the formidable Tipu Sultan, and form alliances with its neighbors, like the Marathas and the Nizam of Hyderabad. They would provoke a war, defeat their target, and then annex huge swaths of land and force the defeated ruler to pay for the cost of the war, bankrupting them in the process. Then they would turn on their former allies, using the same tactics. One by one, the great Indian powers fell. The mighty Maratha Confederacy, a powerful empire that controlled a vast portion of India, was dismantled through a series of wars. The Sikh Empire in the Punjab, built by the legendary Ranjit Singh, was conquered after his death. The company's expansion was relentless, a creeping, unstoppable tide of red on the map. Every treaty signed was just a prelude to the next war. Every alliance was temporary. The only permanent goal was absolute control. For the people of India, this generation saw their world turn upside down. The company's rule was devastating. Their focus was not on governance, but on extraction. They imposed heavy taxes that crippled farmers. They destroyed India's world-famous textile industry to eliminate competition for British goods. Famines, once rare, became horrifyingly frequent. The Great Bengal Famine of 1770, a direct result of the company's exploitative policies and greed, killed an estimated 10 million people, nearly a third of the population. An ancient, sophisticated economy was broken and reshaped to serve a distant corporate shareholder. Within a single generation, from the Battle of Plassey in 1757 to the dawn of the 19th century, the East India Company had transformed from a humble trading firm into the de facto ruler of India. They had seized control of a vast subcontinent, home to a fifth of the world's population, not for a crown or a country, but for profit. This wasn't a simple conquest by a foreign army. It was a corporate takeover, executed with military precision, diplomatic cunning, and ruthless efficiency. The loss of India wasn't just a military defeat. It was the slow, tragic unraveling of a civilization's sovereignty, all within the span of a single human life. The foundation of the British Empire in India was built not on glory, but on a mountain of broken treaties, plundered wealth, and betrayed trust. Thanks for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. See you next time.